The World Superbike Championship moves away from the Czech Republic and over to Emilia-Romagna. Welcome to Mazzano for the San Marino round, but called the Emilia-Romagna race. So let's change over to first practice and join our commentary team.
Chances of keeping on the factory Ducati, and of course it turned out to be absolutely true. Well, Tito Rabat, as you can see, has now parted company with the Moto X team. We wish him all the best. I know he's watching back home in Barcelona, and Rinaldi, who's had a dismal start to the season with GMT 94 in World Supersport, is back where he feels he belongs, and certainly more at home on a superbike, and it's the Moto X Yamaha. So let's see what Michael Ruben Rinaldi can do. Perfect circuit for him to come back in on, as look at this, bit of a race going on already. That was Locatelli diving up the inside of Iannone. Behind them, Scott Redding and Michael van der Mark.
Yeah, Michael Ruben Rinaldi, 19th he is in World Supersport. He's only scored 17 points all season. And to put that in perspective, the leader of the championship, Stefano Manzi, is 185 points. So only 19-point score. That is dismal, isn't it, from the Italian? He hasn't suited that Yamaha going back to Supersport at all. But he was nearly inside the top 10 in the Superpole race here last year in Superbikes in 11th. So let's hope, whatever the riding style, whatever the confidence boost that it is to get this second opportunity for Michael, it can come good for him.
We saw there that Andrea Iannone's been declared fit after that crash that left him ruled out of Most. Remember, he had a horrible high side at the last corner in practice on the Friday. This man was injured at Most as well. And as you can see for yourself, Xavi Vierge also back in racing action here in Italy. That, of course, was the incident at the first corner when Jonathan Ray was attacking, and it all just got too tight, didn't it, with that ridiculous chicane at Most. Bautista got taken down, Vierge got taken down, Alex Lowes went through the gravel, and as a result, Jonathan Ray, if you remember, was given a double long lap penalty. This is Sam Lowes on the Mark VDS. Ducati was actually at Spa last weekend for the 8 hours, the Endurance World Championship, which we had coverage of here on TNT Sports. And he was there with his good friend Florian Marino and the rest of the Mark VDS team, Randy Depunier. This is Alex Ozo now just following his brother, and it's great. Look at that tricolore flag livery that BMotor have used for their first round here at what is the closest circuit to their factory, which is at Rimini, just over the border from San Marino, the Principality, about half an hour from here. My hiccups is gone, I think, now, James, so that's good news, and we can really get into what is going on and off the track, because as I said at the top, I have never known a race weekend that we've come into with so much going on in terms of silly season, and I think we're going to get an even bigger shuffle than we expected initially now.
Yeah, we are. Just going back to Sam as well, he's not been outside the top 6, sorry, in the last 5 races it is. So Sam Lowes is on form, and I very much look forward to seeing how he performs this weekend. Jonathan Ray on your screen, where is he going to go? Is he going to stay with the factory Yamaha squad? We're not sure yet. It's been a difficult, hasn't it, couple of years for them, or year and a half. Not all down to performance, but they've been down to luck. You know, the injuries that Jonathan sustained in the opening round last year in Phillip Island, and the opening round again this year with that horrible broken foot. It's taken a long time, but he had a pretty decent run. We know he had a bit of a controversy, shall we say, into the first corner in Most, and then he got the penalty. But he was riding inside the top 6, and he was amongst them for the first time in a long time, and that would have given him a massive confidence boost for Jonathan. So let's hope here, one of the most in fact the most successful rider on this particular track. Let's just see if that spark can happen again for the Northern Irish rider.
Here's Axel Bassani, average qualifying position of 11th so far this season. That's where he wants to improve. He needs to get further up the grid, a little bit like our Bautista for that matter. But remember, Italian rider, Italian bike, but a Japanese engine, because BMotor is very much owned by Kawasaki, and this is effectively the Kawasaki parent company's way of trying to take on the might of Ducati and Honda and the rest of them here in World Superbikes by homologating this new BMotor bike. And in fact, he's just abandoned that run and gone across the park chicane. So you saw Bassani closest to us in the foreground, as we now focus our attentions on the number 7 factory Honda of Iker Lecuona, another rider like Vierge, who's not got a seat at the moment for next year. Ryan Vickers, we've just seen his manager, haven't we, as we made our way into the paddock this morning, Roger Burnett. He's on a 2-year deal with Moto Corsa. Now, whether he'll stay at Moto Corsa or can move within the Ducati family remains to be seen. I suspect he'll stay where he is, but that's Sofoglu. Bahattin Sofoglu is crashed down at turn 1, so yellow flags are out. At least he's okay, James.
Yeah, as you say, we're talking to Roger and Ryan's possibilities of going somewhere else. You know, obviously if Petrucci gets into the factory team, there's Barney Sparks, Ducati available possibly, but we will see. That's Sebastian Sofawalu just getting it all wrong, as you said. But Ryder, okay, just losing the front, and that's just a bit of a costly mistake at this point in the weekend when you're trying to get up to speed, you're trying to get as much data from the bike. Let's not forget they were only testing over a week ago here at this particular track, so they will have had all pretty good race settings and you know, development from that. So that's why these guys will be fully up to speed very, very quickly. We're already in the 33s with Bulliger and Bautista. Top rack now is going to be a 33 mid. Yes, look at that, 33.5. But put that in perspective as well. With qualified tyres last year, a 32.3 was pole position. So only 1.3 off that already is absolutely flying.
Here's Alvaro Bautista. So what's he going to do then? And also, what do you make of the situation, Dennis? Because my initial reaction when he said Ducati's decided not to take up the option, I thought, oh, that's quite honest of him. But there's different opinions on this, aren't there? Some people saying, is it a bit naughty the way Alvaro's played the game? Others saying, it's, you know, he's done a lot for them and it's a shame he's sort of being kicked out, if you like. But then other people are saying, well, he's not won a race since Aragon in September last year, and he has been, let's be honest, comprehensively trounced now for 2 seasons in a row by a rookie teammate in Nicolo Budiga.
Yeah, the tide shifted, hasn't it? You know, let's be honest. This man here, the world champion, he is now, what, 40 years old, and the younger Italian on the other side of the garage has really shown this man the way through. And I'm just looking at the last year's championship. Bulliger beat Bautista by 71 points last year, and it looks like it's going to be a similar kind of situation, if not worse, because Bautista's 111 points behind Bulliger already at this stage. So Ducati, obviously, they've put the money into the other side of the garage, which they had to. But as you can see there, Bautista confirming that he is free now next year if they don't take up the option. But is it Ducati that's not taking up the option, or is it Bautista not accepting the option that Bautista's been given? And if it is a situation where Bautista's just not accepting a massive pay cut, then it's not really Ducati that's not taking up the option. They're just not taking up the option of the kind of criteria that Bautista's wanting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the sort of general feeling seems to be that, obviously at the moment, Bautista's getting paid more than Budiga, isn't it? Budiga very much deserves more, will want more, but they need to factor in the fact they're paying Marc Marquez, don't they? And big names like that in MotoGP as well. So I guess, James, are they maybe just sort of swapping them around? They'll pay Budiga more, Bautista less, and Alvaro, you can understand, maybe isn't 100% pleased with that.
Well, if you are challenging for a World Superbike title, obviously the pay is massively different to not.
Quick break on TNT, but we'll be back in a second.
Immediately to concentrate on the rest of the season.
It was crucial for us to secure the renewal, not just for this season, to calm him down and to let him know about his future, but also to protect him from the offers that he was receiving from all the other manufacturers. So it was important for us to find a deal and secure down. Now we are much more comfortable for the rest of the season and for the near future.
I'd like to ask you about the other manufacturers, but talking of on the other side of the garage, obviously getting Nicolo Buliga signed up, your two-time champion Alvaro Bautista, there's been talk that he is potentially on his way out. Could you just tell us a little bit more about the second seat? If he is on his way out, who are you looking at? Are you looking at experience or maybe a younger rider? Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, there is no decision and no name yet. The only change is that now the seat is free. That means that we don't have a already preformed idea about who will ride. We have many options. So we will have the next few weeks to decide. The only change was from an occupied seat to a free seat. That's it.
So maybe another rider, maybe in red currently?
Yeah, of course. Maybe a rookie, maybe a new name, or maybe an experienced rider. It's all open.
Well, great talking to you, Stefano, and it's your home round, so enjoy it, and I'm sure you'll be a very busy man this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so big change and no change on one side and the other. You know, for Alvaro Bautista, it's a mammoth decision for Ducati, and I must admit, without looking at budgets and so on, which is way beyond my remit, but on a pure performance terms, you'd want to keep both of them, wouldn't you? Because you've got the rider who's first in the championship. Alvaro, admittedly, on points is behind Petrucci at the moment after, 4 non-scores this season. But in performance terms, aside from Bulliger, who's staying with them, aside from Toprak, who's leaving to MotoGP, the next best performer is Alvaro Bautista. So to set him loose on the market is a bold decision from Ducati.
It really is, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, for Ducati, they do have the best bike on the grid, a new bike coming next year as well. The Aruba team obviously has had a lot of success, so there's a massive draw for that, and that'll make a big difference. But there's a lot of change coming for next year. We saw a quick shot there, Michael Galinsky from the MGM Bonovo team, and for Galinsky, he came out and he said that in all likelihood this will be the end of the project at the end of this season. They've got enough budget to finish the year, which at Most was a big question mark. But it also means that, you know, a rider like Scott Redding, obviously it's been a very disappointing year for Scott. He's on the market next year as well. Michael van der Mark, we can see here, has an option with BMW for next year that they can exercise. BMW probably want to keep one rider, obviously, and that can be van der Mark. But it's a tough situation for quite a few riders on the grid right now.
Heading up to towards 30 minutes remaining in this free practice one. Only now is Jonathan Ray putting in his first flying lap of the session, so he's missed out on the early minutes. The other 22 riders all have something on the board, but Jonathan Ray just making his way through the final sector now, and that will be to complete his first flying lap. We'll see where that puts him in the rankings, but at the moment it's Toprak Razgatlioglu who leads the way, 1 minute 33.249 his time, best part of 2/10 now ahead of Nicolo Bulliger,
who had his first test on the Aprilia in Aragon. First rider from World Supersport 300s all the way to MotoGP. You're just looking at the frustration here of Jonathan. Looks like he's got a technical problem on his bike. Just having a closer look at that, doesn't look like it's kind of coming off the speed limiter, the pit lane limiter also, so almost something like that, but we'll check that. But yes, this man here, he deserves a chance to ride against the best, because this man is one of the best ever in Superbikes, and one of the best riders ever, I think, in history. And I really hope that Yamaha give him what he needs to be competitive there, because when you think about it, Greg, to replace Toprak here in this World Superbike Championship, there's only 1 or 3 riders maximum that could do what this man's doing, and one of them's Marc Marquez, the other one's Fabio Quartararo, and the other one's Pedro Acosta, and the rest, forget about it. This man would beat them all. Bagnaia, forget it. Digi, Morbidelli, no chance. If you put all the MotoGP riders on a BMW here in World Superbikes, this man would be very, very difficult to beat. That's what the talent of this young man is, and I'm very pleased he's finally got the opportunity. He's got 6 or 7 tracks to learn that he's never been to before. He's got all of the bike to learn, the chassis and the carbon brakes, and there's no ride-out device in 2027, obviously, but he's still got to learn. Also, Michelin tyres as well that he's got to adapt to. But the team you've just seen, Phil Marron, it sounds like he's going. I was looking at the press conference that they had. He said that Phil was going to go with him, and I'm also not surprised because the Yamaha's on screen. I'm not surprised he's going with Yamaha because of all these new kind of experiences, new paddock, new garages, new bikes. Let's go back to the old family of Yamaha that he won the 21 championship in World Superbikes. Eric Desain, Andrea Dossoli, Canapé, you know, all the top brass of Yamaha, just to have some familiarity to him when he goes to such a big challenge. MotoGP is it doesn't get any bigger, and Toprak is box office, and I can't stress to you just how proud I am that this paddock's produced a talent like that.
Yeah, here, well said, James, and of course it's a move you've made yourself as well, of course, in recent years, and we've seen Colin Edwards make the switch, Ben Spies, Neil Hodgson, of course, our very own Neil, and several others as well. And we've also got Paolo Pavesio, don't forget him as well. He'll be here at Misano this weekend, and I think he's been an absolutely crucial element in this as well. Paolo Pavesio, we mentioned this, didn't we, in the commentary back at Cremona, I think it was, on the Friday practice coverage there a few weeks ago, that Pavesio was involved in the Superbike project when Toprak won the championship in Indonesia back in 2021, as you've just said. And Paolo still considers that his best achievement in his career. So Toprak is very, very close to Paolo Pavesio, who, of course, has now taken over in recent times from Lynn Jarvis.
I just want to interrupt there. Just one rider that I forgot off the list of a possibility of replacing Toprak would be Jorge Martin as well. I forgot because of his injuries, unfortunately. Yeah. But those 5 riders, let's hear what we can hear in the Yamaha camp with Jonathan.
You know, that's Uri just saying his crew chief, Uri Paera, saying the target is to make 1 lap, and then we cut away. But Jonathan shaking his head, wasn't he? But as you said, it almost sounded like the limiter was stuck on or something, the way it was it just didn't seem to he had drive, but it wasn't really doing anything, was it? And he's coasted around pretty much the whole lap and back in. It never rains, but it pours, unfortunately, at the moment.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. Just as Jonathan and Yamaha all kind of start looking like they've got a bit of confidence and it's starting to click, another spanner just gets thrown into the works, doesn't it? And just hold them up. But let's hope that the Yamaha team can get that problem fixed quickly. Got Garrett Gerloff there on the Kawasaki, the Soul Kawasaki. You know, as you said, Alex Lowe's had a podium here on that bike, so hopefully he should be pretty competitive. He's 11th at the minute and a personal best first split for Garrett Gerloff. There's only a couple of riders on the track, Dominic Agata, Van der Mark, and this is Ike Lecuona in the box with his engineers.
Okay, they're just talking about different corners there. Turn 2, turn 3. That's Tom Jojic, his Canadian crew chief, on your right. He's worked in MotoGP with the Roberts team. He's worked in Formula 1 with Arrows and BAR in the past as well. This is Remy Gardner now. And remember, this is so interesting, isn't it? Everyone wants a good weekend, but they're fighting for their futures as well.
Lovely slow-mo there, just as you saw Remy Gardner coming off that front brake lever with his right hand and then straight onto the throttle. Once again, 2 fingers on the front brake. Look, they just release the brake and then back on the throttle, crack it just there, just to get the feeling of where the grip is immediately. So as soon as you come off the front brake, you're on the throttle, just to get a bit of a gauge. And that's, again, very similar technique to Nicola Bulliger. Last corner this is, just as the 2 fingers come off that lever, back onto the throttle, and you'll see him immediately open. You can see Nicola Bulliger's right foot almost trailing the rear brake, just to allow that bike to keep turning, keep slowing down if you enter a little bit quick as well. The other 2 riders weren't doing that, but that's an interesting kind of technique from Nicola. I love his new helmet though, the Italian flag on there, and I think Strasso, was it Mari? I think that's same beach. I think it is. It means on the helmet there, but it's beautiful helmet design for this weekend.
Yeah, we were looking briefly there. It was like a candid camera situation from the onboard camera on the back of his bike as it was parked in the garage. The girl on the left with his girlfriend, Camilla. This is Locatelli in the meantime. Orange boxes means personal best sector times, and that becomes one long orange line now on the graphics because he's put in his best lap of the session so far, down in 10th place. Another interesting thing we're hearing is that BMW might be replacing both riders because Toprak's off to GP with Pramac, and we reckon that'll probably end up becoming a factory ride if Alex Rins is replaced for 2027. He can't be at the moment because he's on a 2-year deal. Van der Mark venturing very wide indeed, and it seems as though Van der Mark might be shopping around for a ride next year as well. Xavi Vierge from Honda, he's another one who's been linked with a BMW seat. Good development rider as well as a good racer, Xavi Vierge, so that might not be as mad a move as it may initially sound. This time he keeps off the green painted areas. Remember, if you see green paint, that means it's monitored for track limits, very much, including the exit of the last corner where we've seen many infringements in years gone by. Out of that Mazzano corner, turn 16. He's not happy at the moment, is he? Look at all the way as well. He's down in, well, he was up to 14th, but he's had the lap taken away for running wide, so back down to 18th position again. We'll take a quick pause. We'll leave you for a moment on TNT Sports, but we will be back.
Too much because you do at least know where the bike is in a base package after 2 days of testing, but obviously track conditions changing all the time. It's been really hot here at Mazzano over the course of the last few days since we arrived. It's only just coming up to 11 o'clock in the morning and it's already 28 degrees. Track temperature's going to get really high over the course of the weekend. You'd expect it to be up in and around that 55, 60 degrees. And the asphalt that we have here is actually quite different to everywhere else that we go because we're so close to the sea that when they relaid the track, they actually put in an asphalt that can deal with salt water in the air and different conditions from the sand blowing quite close to the circuit as well. So it's an abrasive track surface, so you do need that bit of time and experience on it. So that's where the test comes in quite useful. It's also meant that for a lot of teams, whenever you talk to them about what tyres they expect to use during races, they've all said, you know what, we don't really have many decisions to make this weekend. We know exactly what we have to do going into it, and that also frees up one of those variables that teams work on during the course of free practice.
Yes, there is an element of that. New qualifying tyre this weekend is going to be the main talking point in terms of tyres from Pirelli. Of course, it is the Pirelli round as we see into the pit box now with Jonathan Rea. And some signs of frustration here for Ray. Obviously, he wants to be out there putting in laps because he's seeing everyone else getting their opportunity at the start of Friday. And these days, it's a frantic schedule. You know, we have your 2 free practice sessions, then we're straight into business tomorrow of Super Pole and race. So the one thing you don't want is to find yourself on the back foot from the word go.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see that a little bit for Johnny. He does a good job more often than not of being able to keep that frustration very much in-house. But it has to be there for him as well.
Seeing riders making their way through in free practice 1 with 22 minutes to go. Toprak Razgatlioglu's in the pits, as is Alvaro Bautista.
For the Misano round of the Superbike World Championship, and we're watching Andrea Locatelli, who's currently in 10th position, but not for long. He's jumped up to 8th on the Pata Maxus Yamaha. Let's just run you through very quickly what's happening. Some of the riders are now in the pits making setup changes. Toprak Razgatlioglu, MotoGP bound next year, fastest. Bautista fighting for his future, is currently 1/1000th of a second ahead of his teammate, his championship leading teammate, Nicolo Buliga. Remy Gardner is 4th, and it's Petrucci, Bassani on the lead Bimota, Lecuona on the top Honda from this man Locatelli, and the 2 Lowe's twins, Alex and Sam, are 9th and 10th. Jonathan Ray is down in 15th position, but he's in the pits with a problem. He's coasted back round, and his Yamaha is in bits at the moment as the team frantically tries to get it sorted.
Yeah, Nicolo Buliga just at the hairpin. Cara hairpin turn 14. This is turn 15, the penultimate corner here at Misano, before your 3rd gear back to 2nd, down into the final corner. Oh, a little bit of chatter on the front as he's turning in there. That's probably why he's dragging that rear brake, because when the front chatters, you just got to take some pressure off it, and that's when the rear brake can come into its own to carry on keeping the bike turning in that left-hander. This is turn 1, turn 2 into the chicane. The Variante del Parco section here, turn 2 and 3, before you just accelerate all the way down the hill into the turn 4 here, 1st gear corner, as the leg comes out and the anchor kind of just this counter kind of balancing the bike, keep it stable in those really slow corners, because when you've got over 250 brake horsepower and you're trying to get it down to about 30 miles an hour down to that turn 4, it's a bit of a handful. And Daniel Petrucci is in a beautiful position there, just behind Nicolo Buliga, taking advantage of it. He's in 5th with a personal best in the 1st split.
Tommy Raponi watching on. He, of course, lives and breathes this just as Buliga does. I wonder if and when Buliga goes to MotoGP in 2027 as a racer, will he go with him? Time will tell. I think he's got this so right. He always seems to get it right, doesn't he, Nicolo Buliga? We know that from the start of the season, his manager, Alberto Martinelli, was pushing for more money. It certainly seems as though he's got it, as Toprak is adjusting, by the looks of things, his right boot. Now, I don't know whether he's in some sort of discomfort here or whether that's just something you normally do anyway. You don't normally see riders changing their boots during a session.
No, not at all. Interesting to see that, actually. As you've seen with Dane Easy, you've got the boots that go inside the leathers. Same for Nicolo Buliga here. And obviously, it's massively important to have the stability around your ankles, because when you crash on a motorcycle, they are vulnerable to getting clattered on the floor. And as we saw, you know, even getting your ankle broken by Loris Bars, wasn't it, and Alex Lowe's a couple of years ago, when the leg dangles, someone can actually hit it on the way through, and that's what happened to him. So, but it's an aerodynamic thing mainly, with the leathers going over the top of the boot. When you're down the straights, there's no air going down the top of the boot. I know we have the kind of like with the flaps at the top of most of them, but Dane Easy, that's what they've kept with for years and years and years. And it's a distinctive difference between Dane Easy compared to all the other leather manufacturers.
On board then with Andrea Iannone. I wonder how he's feeling physically, James, having had that big high side last time out at Moss. First time he's properly been back on a bike in competitive race conditions since then, although don't forget they did have a test here a week or so ago out of Misano corner on Misano circuit. I always remember this man when he took Pol Espargaro out of the race. Do you remember at the end of the 125 Grand Prix here in 2009? Pol Espargaro was leading, Iannone went up the inside, hit him, took him off. The bike went cartwheeling over the top of the barrier and ended up on the service road. And then Iannone, despite having caused the incident, continued the fight with Espargaro. It was fisticuffs in the gravel trap as well. 16 years ago in the 125cc World Championship. Buliga is really on a good lap now. He's just put in the fastest second and third sectors of anybody in the session so far. And are we about to see Buliga get down into the 1:33.1s for the first time this weekend? Let's have a look. Oh, 33.2, and he misses out there by 31 thousandths of a second. He lost all of that in that last corner and the run into the start-finish straight, but another really good lap for Budiger. Let's see whether he can just chisel away now. If he can find 32 thousandths, he's faster than Toprak, as Bautista is also on his best lap of the session so far here this morning.
Just to take you through the test results, actually, on the last day, it was Nicola Budiger with a 32.0. So we are still yet to have the very first man or woman to go into the 31s around this particular track. It was Toprak who was second. Axel Bassani on the Bimotor. They've done plenty of laps around here. Like Greg said, the factory's only just down the, or up the road, should I say, in Rimini. So this is very much their home race. We're at Cremona, but that's a fair distance from there. So this one is officially their home race, and that's why they got it's donning the Italian flag. We got Sam Lowes, who was fourth. And like we say, it's the man in form at the minute, isn't it? Not outside the top 6 in any races, out of the top 5 races. And then we had Gardner, Montella was 6th, showing a good test. Lecuona and Jonathan was 8th. Petrucci was down in 9th. So it's Bautista was 13th, actually, I've just seen in the test. So that's probably why his negotiation has been a little bit difficult since that test before this race. And there's Gigi Deligna, the top brass of the general manager, obviously chief engineer as well in that MotoGP effort. He will be smiling from what's just happened in Aragon. Another dominating performance by Marc Marquez, wasn't it, Greg?
Yeah, for those of you watching us for the first time, in fact, I'll come back to that. Oh, I thought he was about to go fastest. He's done it again, 11 thousandths off now. So if he can do that again, he will be fastest next time round. But this is a very consistent run now. That's 3 or 4 really quick laps he's just put in succession. But for those of you who watch a lot of car racing and you're joining us for the first time, welcome along. Gigi Deligna, who we've just seen there, he's very much the Adrian Newey of the motorbike racing world, and he's the man who most people hold responsible for the extreme improvements in aerodynamics that we've seen in MotoGP in particular, and therefore also in World Superbikes as it filters down in the last few years. He is an absolute maestro, and he has turned things around. Ducati were in the doldrums 8-10 years ago. Remember them struggling? I was watching back the other day at random the 2013 Indianapolis Grand Prix when Dovizioso and Hayden hit each other at the last corner and leapt over the curbs, and I was checking the results. They were 40 seconds behind at that point. I remember Dovizioso getting a podium in Texas in 2014, and at that point to see a Ducati on the podium was major, and now they are absolutely dominating the bike racing world. Bautista's improved them but stays 3rd, but Toprak, here he is, might actually get now for the first time today into the 132s.
Yeah, here he comes, the last corner out of here, turn 16, down the start finish straight. Is it a 32? No, only 700ths off, wasn't it? But he's getting closer and closer. I'll tell you what, Bautista's 33.3, he's 1/10 quicker than he went in the test already. So he might have not ran a qualifying tyre though, so that's possibly why he was down on the pecking order. But how important is this session for Bautista? If he wants any kind of leverage on the deal, and the meeting could be this weekend still to make a final decision on it. This weekend is pivotal for Alvaro Bautista staying on a factory Ducati.
Here's Vieja having had all of that physio on his foot since Most back in Barcelona. It was very unfortunate there. He was on the outside and Ray and Bautista made contact. Vieja went flying through the air and landed awkwardly in the gravel, and Alex Lowes had to go across the gravel. Here's his teammate though, Bassani. Where are the Bimotors in the championship? Well, Bassani is in 10th position. Alex Lowes just 2 points behind him in 11th position. It really all unravelled for Alex when he crashed in qualifying at Portimao, then lost his second lap for yellow flags, had to start a long way back towards the back of the grid and didn't score any points, and that's where Lowes lost a lot of points so far this season. It seems as though this man's fighting for his future as well though, James. If BMW do not keep Van der Mark, and that's the general feeling in the paddock and has been for quite some time now. What's he done on this lap? 18th up to 15th. Having a bit of a quiet morning so far, isn't he, Michael van der Mark?
Well, he's 60 on the bike and he's 160 points behind his teammate, you know, after round 5. So that is why he's finding it difficult. Oh, now that is why he gets paid the big bucks, Greg, because that front end chatter there, he lost the front, but cat-like skills once again from Toprak. He saved it and prevented an accident, and that's Bolliger also going straight on him. Maybe got distracted maybe from Toprak going through there, but yes, 160 points behind your teammate after round 5 is unacceptable in a factory team. And Michael van der Mark, I think he will have to look elsewhere Oh, look at this. Watch the chatter on the front there. Oh, did you see just the vibration? And that vibration just loses the grip of the tyre on the track and hops over the bumps. And as soon as it starts to hop, it's it's impossible to keep turning in. That's why I had to go straight on.
Nice hand reactions and gesticulations from Chris Gontior there, the technical director, as he comes shooting past the curb cameras at Tremonto Corner, the Sunset Corner up there in the west. You won't be surprised, there's always some great photography here towards the evenings when we get the sun coming down behind the trees. Probably won't happen here at this time of the year, to be honest with you. We'll be long done with track activity by the time the sun sets later on towards 10 o'clock this evening. Into the Carrow hairpin now. So many grandstands in this part of the track because, as we were saying earlier on, of course, the track used to go the other way around. So this used to be the first few corners when the pack was all bunched together through the left-hander of 15, down into the left-hander of 16. I just wonder, though, with this whole MotoGP situation, it feels like Boudicca's really got it right. Remember in 2023, James, when he won the Supersport World Championship and he did a series of tests. As talking of tests, that's what James has just been talking about a lot. The latest from day 2 at the Misano test here a week or so ago. The top 2 both under record pace, Boudicca and Toprak. But when Boudicca was winning his Supersport title, he did a series of tests that year on the Superbikes. So by the time he actually jumped on it, he wasn't really a rookie. He was a rookie by name and not nature. And sure enough, what did he do? He went off to Australia and won his very first race. And next year, he's going to be testing the GP bike on Pirelli tyres all the way through the season, learning the circuits too. So when 2027 comes around and he ends up racing in MotoGP, which is what we think will happen and looks very likely and certainly what he wants, you know, he could be right on the pace immediately in 27.
When life goes your way, Greg, it goes your way. Let's hear what he's saying in the garage.
Oh, very animated. I love that.
Yeah, just talking in the first corner when he taps the throttle, it's the rear's coming round on him. But yes, it's like life's amazing sometimes that it just seems so effortless to get what you want, to get you know what you desire in life with the hard work that you put in. The more you can put into life, the more you get out of it. That is for sure. And every single rider on this grid is doing that, because to get to world level is not an easy thing to do. To try and be the best in the world is not an easy thing. You look at the chatter here. No, that's not the actual one that caused the accident, but lovely slow-mos here into turn 1, just riding style. Look at the right leg. That then puts the wind, it puts the mass of the leg, the weight of the leg lower down, so it's easier to turn the bike into the corner. It takes a bit of pressure off the arms as well, because the wind blows into the groin area and pushes you back onto the seat as well. And as you change direction, the foot goes onto the toe. I'm just looking at the left hand. Any rear brake? No, there's not, because he's got a rear brake lever on his handlebar. This is Bautista. He keeps his right foot on the peg. Look, a bit old school is Alvaro Bautista. Onto the curb, just opening the corner up as much as he can, but that upsets the bike, you see, because there was a few ripples. So look at the work that the front fork is doing on the bumps. Seems like the first corner, there's a lot of bumps going into there. And Alvaro Bautista is just saying to the team, as when he's turning in, is having a few problems as well, so he might need a bit more support or stability from that front, because there seemed a lot of movement. Didn't help that he turned in on the curb, because the lacerations on the curb start that kind of resonation with the bike, so maybe he'll have to just be a little bit smoother with that. Remy Gardner, let's hear what they're saying. Just dropped a little bit on the rear, so dropping the rear. Sometimes it gives you a little bit more brake stability because there isn't as much transfer as we've seen. Oh, look at the mullet and the wink. I love it, Remy.
Because I'm worth it.
I love it. So, as we've seen with Nicola Bulliga's Ducati, they've lowered it massively, the new subframe and fuel tank, to match the braking stability that Toprak is able to generate. We know Toprak's seat is more or less dragging on the rear wheel, isn't it? So everybody's going in that direction just so they can brake in the same place and in a similar fashion to the world champion.
Just looking at the lap times as Lowe's, Alex, that is, comes into the last corner. Gardner's on a 33.6. Next closest Yamaha is Locatelli in 9th place, half a second down. So Gardner, he's flying at the moment. Alex stays where he is, did not improve. I was also going to mention Valentino Rossi and whether he might be creeping into Misano this weekend, but he certainly won't be, because Rossi, don't forget to follow our coverage of the Le Mans 24 Hours for Cars over in France, because Rossi, of course, is racing at Le Mans, so we wish him all the best, and a plethora of XF1 drivers on that grid as well, including Jenson Button and others. So Le Mans going on this weekend, that's going to be an interesting one to see what happens over there. But the reason I was going to mention Rossi is because there's lots of talk as well about Buliga reuniting with the VR46 guys to maybe race one of the currently bright yellow bikes in MotoGP. I mean, James, is it even beyond the realms of possibility that Buliga could become teammate to Marc Marquez and the Lenovo factory team in just 2 years from now? Stranger things have happened.
Absolutely. Just getting the confirmation that Vieja is okay as well from that foot injury. So he's going to be reassessed after this practice session, but he looks like he's doing pretty well, doesn't he? I'm just looking down, he's 2.4 off, so it's not ideal for the Spaniard, but sometimes riding the bike can be the best rehabilitation for any rider, because, you know, if you can get up to speed and just get the body working in this way, it can recover sometimes quicker, but it's very important that you don't come off as well if you're still injured, because this is him still limping, look, so he's obviously still feeling it, Greg.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Now, hopefully, I mean, we often see this, don't we, when it's actually harder to walk around the paddock and do day-to-day things, than, as you say, James, riding the bike itself. Of course, he's not having to put that weight, is he, on the foot when he's riding, but I guess it's not going to get any easier as the week goes on and the event goes on. This is Van der Mark. What's he done? He's 0.9 down after the third of the 4 sectors. Well, he really cannot afford to finish down in 17th, can he? Up to 12th he goes. Snap under braking. He's all over the place, a bit like Toprak earlier on, and has to ditch that one.
Yeah, he doesn't want to turn in, does it? The BMW looks really, really nervous. The amount that the front dives and the instability from the front as it's turning in, that looks really sketchy from the BM.
Now, this happens a lot, doesn't it, with that Beamer? When it's hot, we've got 40 degrees track temperature here, and we've said this earlier in the year, haven't we? It's Toprak, by the way, just to make us look silly. He's going even quicker, but that is Toprak. Taz McKenzie, 20th, stays 20th, but does improve on the MIE Honda. But yeah, the Ducati seems to thrive when it's hot track temperatures, and the BMW struggles. So if Toprak does come out and do something special this weekend, that really is something to behold as the MIE team watch on. Giulio keeping reasonably calm in front of that fan.
I really don't know what's happening with the MIE Honda team. It is so disappointing what package they're able to give the riders. I mean, 36s. I'm not being funny, Greg, but we were doing 35s 20 years ago. And I'm you know, that's a fact. You know, so I'm really not sure how in 2007 Tenkate Fireblade can still be half a second faster than the Fireblade of today. Something is seriously going wrong with how they build that bike in that team, and you know, it's I really feel for Taz, because that shouldn't be the case, should it? 20 years on, you're still slower.
So hang on there, what is, as Alex Lowe's now runs wide at turn 1, he's certainly not the first and probably won't be the last. What is going on then? I mean, have the tyres changed, or I'm trying
they're better.
They're better, so I'm trying to help Honda out here, but what is going on?
That's the thing. I really don't know. Look at this. Jonathan's bike's still being built.
I mean,
in
how
the garage.
much time has he lost, James? He's got
40 minutes, isn't it?
In. And now Van der Mark's crashed at turn 1. We saw him struggling to stop.
Not surprised.
There. I'm not surprised either. I hope he's okay. Here he is, Michael Van der Mark. And these aren't just people's weekends being ruined. This is people's careers and welfares and livelihoods hanging in the balance here. They don't need this, Jonathan Rea and Michael Van der Mark. They really do not need this right now.
Yeah, you can see how nervous it was into turn 1, and watch this. This is it happening again. He's got a toe off Vieja. He's deep.
Oh.
He was fast. He was going in early because he knew he was fast turning in, but he still went in to try and make the corner. And that just shows you just how on edge that bike is. And apologies for the gesture if you're understanding that. And you can see Sean Muir and the team, they are disappointed with that. They won't be surprised, though, because they could see how much the BMW was protesting with the riders into that particular corner. And obviously, Michael is getting frustrated. He can't afford to wait for this bike to get good round turn 1. He's got to force it to fit, to try and get that contract. And you're going to see mistakes like this being made by a few riders, because they're all riding for their careers. They're all riding for their jobs. Their possibilities of still being able to be a world champion. They're high stakes, Greg, aren't they?
Oh, it must be a horrible feeling, I have to say. Back with Buliga. I mean, have you ever been in that scenario? I'm trying to think back, James. I can't. I mean, I guess when you were in MotoGP, there was that threat of Ben Spies taking the ride, which he eventually did. I mean, what does that feel like when you've got someone breathing down your neck like that?
It's always the case, you know, a rider, and anybody in life really, you've got a curvature, haven't you? You're born and you become, and you're a kid, and then you get good at something, and then if you really, really dedicate yourself to it, you can get really good at it with how much dedication you put to it. And then you get to a peak with an age and your ability and your opportunities where it does then taper off with age. Unfortunately, we all get older, don't we? We're not getting younger. And the youngsters then come behind us to take our places. And we've seen it with Jonathan Rea and Alvaro Bautista, and you know, obviously with Michael van der Mark now, he's not one of the older guys, but he hasn't got faster over the last couple of years, and it's a problem for them. And it's just sport, Greg. It's high stakes, it's super competitive, and if you're not performing, just look at Alvaro Bautista. Let's just say he earned £1 million over the last couple of years, battling for World Superbike Championships. This man here on screen is taking his position, and now is probably being offered 100 or 200,000 euros, right? And this man now gets the million. And that's from one year to the next, how crucial it is. 800,000 quid off your value, just because this man now looks like he is trusted to take the challenge to anybody else on the circuit to bring that trophy back to Bologna.
Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from Buda, because his riding talent is absolutely out of this world, and his achievements have been incredible. But I will just say, the fact he is Italian, and this is Ducati, will not do him any harm whatsoever. And we've actually never had an Italian win a World Superbike title on a Ducati bike. Could it happen for the first time this year? We hadn't had an Italian winning MotoGP until Bagnaia. Excuse the language. Excuse the language.
It's not just him.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Michael van der Mark, it's exactly what we said. He's not just frustrated about the current circumstances. It's very hot. Everyone is really on a short fuse anyway when it's this hot, but that's his future hanging in the balance there.
That bike did look handful, though.
It did.
I do sympathise with Michael, because it looked absolutely horrendous.
The Toprak as well. Toprak had a moment early, remember?
Yeah, and, you know, it takes Toprak skill level to be able to save it and ride around it. But look at that, the rear will come off. But look, just into there, you can see that front tyre is not digging in. You can see, look at him. You can look at, he's even looking at the front end, looking at the front tyre. He's like, what is going on with this bike? There must be something wrong with the tyre, almost. So he looked at that then. The BMW has a significant issue into turn one on those bumps, and it needs sorting quickly, or they're going to really risk scoring no points in the races.
Yeah, and we saw this earlier in the season as well, didn't we? You know, they have had their problems this year as the clock now counts down 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year, because we're at the end of the session, but they had their problems in Australia. Remember, Toprak couldn't get it stopped, went sailing off at the Miller hairpin, and Bautista went off as well, and he nearly took out Iannone and Buliga. We had technical problems in the last race in Australia as well with the electrical gremlins. Van der Mark's had issues all season long and lost practice sessions. These are not good times for BMW. I have to say, they're going to be in a bit of a mess, aren't they, without Toprak? I don't want to be, oh, someone's down, are they? Yes, there's yellow flags out there in the background, and a dust storm as well, and it's Bahatin to Foglu again. It's turn 15, the left-hander. That's where we saw Jorge Martin crash, if you remember, when the MotoGP title was decided in 2021 in favour. Was it the 21 tyres with Quartararo or one of the Bagnaia ones? But I remember a MotoGP title being decided there a few years ago. New flag at the top of the screen to indicate that the yellow flags are out. Good to see Jonathan Rea's back out here, but he's going to lose this lap now as he goes through the dust storm. Oh dear, I hope Sofoglu's okay. That's his second crash of the morning.
Important lap this for Jonathan, though, as he's just behind Garrett Gerloff. He's going to set a decent lap time here with only a handful of laps that he's been able to do in FP1, 1.1 off. I tell you what, that's not a bad effort from Jonathan, just to get, like I say, that confidence in this gap between FP1 and FP2 later on today. Let's hope that the Yamaha R1 has less problems for Jonathan in that next session. Alex Lowe's now comes across the line, and he's going to move from 12th to 10th, 1 second off. Not too bad, but it's not kind of the potential of finishing on the podium like he did last year on the Kawasaki for the Bimota. In the interviews before the weekend, he was hoping to challenge for those podiums, but the Bimota team have got a lot to do before they can challenge these two guys, especially Nicola Bulliger, Alvaro Bautista, second and third respectively. But it is Toprak still a quarter of a second faster than these two Bologna bullets at home.
Yeah, it was 2021, wasn't it? I thought it was when Quartararo wrapped up his MotoGP title here. It was strange to see a title wrapped up at Misano, but the calendar was all over the place, wasn't it, at that point because of the COVID situation. So, what a morning. BMW in trouble, despite Toprak having actually lapped quickest here on a 1:33 flat, 2/10 ahead of the Ducatis, but I just can't see at the moment how he's going to manage to hold on to that over race distance, because this bike is all over the place. This is going to be a practice start, and it's going to be really interesting to see if we stay with Toprak when he comes in, because his teammate Van der Mark is absolutely furious. Here's the practice start, away he goes. Practice start zone over on the far side of the track. That is the allocated zone for practice starts.
If there ever was an example of what this man can do differently to other riders, that FP1 session was really, really poignant, wasn't it? Just to see how he can ride around such an issue with the bike, because you could see that that bike was similar to Van der Mark's, and Van der Mark couldn't stand it, could he? Anyway.
Toprak Razgatlioglu then is fastest from Bulega and Bautista the top three, but there's a lot of drama coming into the weekend. We'll be back with practice 2 at 2 o'clock. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.